Here we go, AKAPAD. Something amazing happened in the last couple days. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Director's Cut, Part 1, Part 2, equally, collectively dropped on Netflix, and I did not witness a flow of social media hate. Holy crap. All ignitions are go. We're going to shoot this one into the stratosphere. Give me a second. Let's get through that intro. My film buffers. We gotta talk.
Camera speed, sound production, take one.
Action!
It's a weird thing where somehow a non-political person gets associated with politics over observation. A couple articles come out that say, hey, these types of people watch Zack Snyder movies. It's laughable. I can barely even say it. These type of people do this. This type of people do that, right? And then quickly we get what's called dogpiling. So everyone just dogpiles and craps on nothing but Zack Snyder movies. And then along the way, we get this drama of the DC Extended Universe, the DCEU. And people forget how involved he was with the original Wonder Woman movie, how involved he was with Aquaman, how all this stuff was working together, how he set out to do one Superman movie with Christopher Nolan. People kind of forget how attached Christopher Nolan was at one point to Superman Man of Steel. And then the Marvel Cinematic Universe happens, Avengers happen, and then all of a sudden you kind of wedge a big idea into what should have been Man of Steel Part 2, but instead we get Superman vs. Batman and all the other universe stuff crammed into that movie. And from that point on, it sputters, but Zack Snyder develops straight up loyalty online. And when they saw Warner Brothers completely derail the Justice League movie, and the ideas that Zack Snyder for a couple years leaked onto Twitter, not leaked, like he put them out there, it created this fever. So eventually we got the Justice League Zack Snyder cut, which is it's got to be one of the greatest director's cuts or re-releases of all time, maybe the greatest movie rework of all time. It's insane. I love that movie. Sometime around this episode, we have discussed the Justice League Zack Snyder cut, black and white. That is amazing. It's just so, I love just putting that movie on. And then for Netflix, he makes kind of just like this spiritual sequel to his Dawn of the Dead remake. And now people like to retcon Dawn of the Dead. They like to say, well, technically it's not a remake. It's not a remake. It's they could call that movie anything else, but it's not a remake. And it's like, oh my god, eye roll, right? Like, they just want to redefine everything along the way to kind of discredit people and prove arguments. And we get Army of the Dead. And Army of the Dead immediately gets announced as a sequel and prequel and maybe an animated series. This is very common with a lot of Zack Snyder movies. We saw this with his Watchmen, where Watchmen gets a portrait book, a book of portraits of the characters. It gets the Black Freighter release. Black Freighter is an animated sequence within the Watchmen definitive cut, which is also far superior over the regular Watchmen or the Watchmen Ultimate Cut. There's technically 3 Watchmen movies. But then there's like just a wealth of all this supplemental material. Like Watchmen gets a motion comic. It gets all of this stuff. And a lot of it's directed by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder makes a adjustment to the final act of the movie. Like kind of what everything builds into. The comic book had a faked alien invasion. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell even with a 3-hour kind of ish movie. He makes it something else, but then he hires Dave Gibbons, the original artist for Watchmen, to draw new pages with that new ending. Because Zack Snyder's paying homage to the history and the lineage. Watchmen, from page to screen, it looks amazing. Same as 300. So Zack Snyder kind of, like, he builds these, it's not just giant universes, but he builds like these multimedia projects. So we get some similar announcements with Army of the Dead. I watch Army of the Dead, and I put Army of the Dead as one of the greatest zombie movies of all time, if not the greatest, just from the way it definitely explains the zombie lore in that movie. The zombies have a trackable, they have trackable rules, and there's a hierarchy, and it's fun and perfect, and it's a little bit of a heist movie. Like they're going in to steal from a safe, and then that gets a spin-off called Army of Thieves, which kind of butts up to the beginning of the zombie invasion. But it's just more of a character study of other characters that we see. Zack Snyder is deeply interested in character. He's deeply interested in moments to show off who these characters are. And we get that in Rebel Moon. We get that relatively easy with these director's cuts. We get violence from the villain in the beginning. That's a greater intro than anything Darth Vader ever did in Star Wars New Hope. I am sorry. For those who are new to Star Wars, if you watch the Star Wars in sequential order, I guess you're getting this episode 3 origin of Vader moment at the end of that. And that's not a great introduction to Vader. And then we get our hero, Kara. She's a farmer. And we just get this amazing landscape. And she's trying to connect with the soil. But we get these like introspective moments. And then Zack Snyder just cranks it up with the violence. So we get this giant Watchmen release. Because people forget that. And we also get a giant Justice League release. We get 4 hours of movie. We get this giant Army of the Dead release. And it's giant. I mean, as soon as we pull in a spin-off movie, right? But then we get this crazy release for Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon gets normal drops. And immediately they're like, look, we're doing a longer, like R-rated version of this. I mean, we're going to drop the original vision of this movie, but for now we're doing this. So people watch the original movies and they go nuts. They love trashing it on social media. I watch them. I think it's fun science fiction. I like the machines. I like the way it's shot. I like the droid dude. I like the girl being kind of like the chosen one. I like these. I like the villain. I think the villains are just slightly creepy, a lot like the necromancers were in Chronicles of Riddick. There's all of these things that I really like. The visuals of it all, the beats of it all. I love the eclectic collection of characters, same as Army of Darkness, same as Watchmen. Let's get these people together and let's get them doing things. Second movie comes in. They're fighting for their lives almost in the entire second movie. But yeah, like they come and go, and no one sits down and just watches these movies with the idea that, hey, like, we're watching a movie here. Let's have a good time. I think the frame of the audience gets corrupted with social media. I think the critics don't roll in intent when they review a movie. But then we get these director's cuts. I haven't watched them yet, AKAPAD. Watched moments and scenes. I've seen the nudity. I've seen some of the violence of one. I am highly anxious to what we do with part 2, director's cut. But already what I have seen, it's head-spinningly awesome. Now, recently with Planet of the Apes, The Lost Kingdom. Planet of the Apes Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, right? Whatever that new one is called. Holy crap! I did a whatever it is, but let's just go with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That just dropped on Disney Plus, and around the same time. For then, I did. I think it's the first time for this podcast. I stopped the movie. I had an hour left to go, and I recorded because I was so happy with that movie. I just wanted to document where I was, where my frame was, where my critic mind was, just in the middle of a movie, and document it. This is one of the things I love about all the work we've done around this podcast. Like, I can do that, and I think it's valuable. And I'm doing something similar with this, where I want you guys to know my thoughts before I fully sit down and engage this movie. I've seen some of it. I fast forward to some of it. I use the power of streaming. I can press that arrow on my remote controller and I can jump to parts. Why the hell not? Who cares? Right? Let me spoil myself. It doesn't matter. But I just want to document where I'm at before I see these movies. From what I have seen, these movies, these director cuts, these uncut, whatever the heck you want to call them, or the true vision of Rebel Moon, literally looks like a heavy metal movie come to life. It is science fiction, bloody action with nudity, and it's awesome. I want to go back to a time before the internet, because I feel like if these movies came out, they would have been a dream. They would have been a dream before all of these things got slapped onto Zack Snyder. To where, before we've had like a fall of film criticism. Before we've had a generation of critics that no longer have fun when they watch movies. All of these things. Rebel Moon is going to be studied on this channel. It's going to be studied on this podcast. It's going to be studied on this feed. And I'm probably going to roll in more of it in my other social media. I'm inspired enough to do a couple live streams. I want to draw some of the characters and just have fun with some of it. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll see you guys there. But guys, Rebel Moon, I'm giving it a full fair shake, and I'm biased going into it. But I feel like it deserves a fair shake because of these other instances around Zack Snyder's career that corrupts the way people look at his movies. And it's sad, because I don't think it's just. I don't think it's warranted. But that's why we do what we do here on the Film Buff Podcast. We turn the tide. We fight against some of this stuff. And some of you, I know some of you out there, you guys are in the fight with me, and I thank you for it. And because of that, I love you. I love you guys. Right there, I'm talking to you. So rock and roll, everyone. Let's enjoy Rebel Moon, director's uncut. Or the true Rebel Moon. I like calling it true Rebel Moon. The real Rebel Moon.
That's a wrap.